Stephen Edgington here from Westmonster, and today I'm in Brixham, a fishing community in the constituency of Totnes. Now, the local MP here is called Sarah Wollaston. She's a Conservative, and she's got in some hot water recently for calling for a second EU referendum. Now, I want to find out what locals think about her call for a second Brexit vote, whether they think she's betrayed their trust or whether they think it's actually a good idea. There's also a new campaign run by Aaron Banks and Leave.eu to get locals to sign up to the Conservative Party here to deselect Sarah Wollaston. So let's find out what's going on in Brixham and in Totnes, and let's see what locals think. We asked Sarah Wollaston for an interview for this video, however she declined and she sent this statement in instead. There are many versions of Brexit with very different degrees of risk and potential benefit. No deal has clear evidence of serious harms and costs. As I see it, the current situation is analogous to a surgeon consenting their patient to an unknown final operation 2 years in advance without setting out the full risks and benefits, then insisting that the amputation goes ahead regardless. Informed consent matters, but people are currently set to be denied the opportunity to decide, and if we end up with a hard Brexit, I'm seriously worried about the consequences and want to set out the evidence I've heard as Health and Social Care Select Committee and as chair of the liaison committee of all select committees. Yours, Sarah. Your local MP Sarah Wollaston believes that we should have a second EU referendum. What do you think about that?
I think it's a stupid idea. We had a group in Brixham here wanted a second referendum about a fortnight ago, and they said, "Oh, there's 65 million people in this country, and only 17.5 million voted to have a Brexit." And I thought, what a stupid bloody question. For the simple reason you've got 5 million out of that is immigrants. You've got another 25 million that's under 16 that don't vote. So that leaves you that the 17.5 million is the majority. And if they don't believe in that vote, they don't believe in democracy. And that's what Sarah Wollaston is. She just wants what she believes in. She doesn't represent the people. She represents herself. Tom Sarah Wollaston woke up to the bloody idea what she was voted in for, she's got to do. You know, or got her nickname Sarah Woolly Drawers, which says it all, I think, put it bluntly.
Do you think that she's betrayed your trust?
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. You know, she said she changed her vote because she didn't believe what was written on the side of a bus. Well, I don't believe half of what she said, but I don't mean to say I don't want a second referendum. You know, politicians should speak for the people that voted them in. Simple as that. She isn't looking out for these here at all. To them, they're insignificant. I think, truthfully, maybe I'm wrong, but I think she's there for her own political aims and nothing else.
She told me that Brexit is like a amputation and we're going into surgery blind. What do you think about that?
I think that's a stupid bloody statement. This country, how has it survived for 1,000 years on its own?
How many Leave voters do you think are in favour of another referendum? Ask yourself that. And how many Remain voters? I don't think you'll find one Leave voter, will you? And it's all Remain voters. So I think what Sarah Wollaston's done, I mean, she's quite a nice woman. I'm sure she is. But I think she should do the honourable thing and either set herself up for re-election or resign because of that. That's all. Because it's doing her no good and it's doing all of us no good. She should give us a chance. Give us a chance to vote for it again and see what happens.
So another referendum on her parliamentary seat, in other words?
Yeah, absolutely, yeah, because you can't be elected on one thing and then completely change your mind when you've been elected and go ahead and do something else. We elected her on that particular mandate that, you know, she'd done what she said she was going to do. To go against it, completely against it, I think that's wrong. Well, people who voted Remain, did they know what they were voting for as well? But who's to know what's going to happen in Europe in the next few decades? That's what I would say. I think Europe is a ticking time bomb, whether or not we stay or go. And I think it's not really about that. It's about the will of the people, and the will of the people was clear. You know, we voted out, so go ahead and do it.
So we have Mike here. You own your own boat. You've been a fisherman for a very long time until a few years ago here in Brixham. What do you think about your local MP Sarah Wollaston's call for a second Brexit referendum?
Well, I'm disgusted with it because I voted her in because she had the credentials and told everybody she wanted out, and now she just turned around and kicked us in the teeth, basically. It's amazing how people can change when they get office.
Sarah Wollaston told me that Brexit was like an amputation and we're going into surgery blind, essentially, and that's why we need a second referendum. What do you think about that?
Right, well, why didn't she say that when she got us all to vote for her? We're just in her, on the edge of her, so she was one we had to vote for. And I didn't vote for the UKIP, although I liked it, because they weren't going to make any difference. There was not enough people there for it. So I thought, yeah, she wants to come out of the EU, I'll back her. So there's more around the country, irrelevant of what party she was running. She had the most support, and we got what we got now. Ridiculous people saying we should have another referendum. I've never heard anything so damn stupid in my life. That's the end of democracy if you do that.
What do you think about that comment, specifically about comparing Brexit to an amputation?
Well, at the moment, the way I'm being treated as a local councillor by the politicians, financially, I've had one leg cut off, I've had my second leg cut off, I've had one arm cut off, now I've had my other arm cut off. Please can you tell me who's going to push me around in a wheelchair and who's going to feed me, or am I, sad to say, going to be left to starve to death? That's how people are feeling at the moment. The business community wants to get on with Brexit and get it sorted. Whatever way I voted doesn't matter. We've had the referendum, we've had the vote, we have to get on with it. Why should the politicians tell us what we should be doing? And that's what Sarah is failing to do, is listen to her constituency, and the game she's playing, oh, I don't represent Brixham now, I represent the South Ham, so I'm sorry, you represent Totnes, and 44% of your vote is in Brixham, so don't play games.
And one last question. Do you think Sarah really is a proper Conservative?
She was not elected by the Conservatives, she was elected by all parties across the board, so she believes she represents everybody. So I don't think she's what I would call a real Conservative. And mysteriously, the Conservatives have never had that selection system since.
Reg, now obviously Sarah Wollaston is your local MP.
Yes,
she spoke to you on this very doorstep right here, just here.
This area here
Last year during the general election campaign, what did she say?
she's well, it's not what she said, it's what I said, to be quite honest. She came electioneering, as you're well aware, and I simply said to her, are you going to back the Brexit vote, the referendum, and are you going to back Theresa May to carry it through as we asked for in the referendum? She said yes. To the best of my knowledge, she never promised, but she said yes, she would follow it through. But then, as you're well aware, she's changed her mind.
Feel that she's betrayed Brexit?
Yes, definitely, without any shadow of a doubt. No doubt whatsoever. She has betrayed us.
Won't be voting for her again.
Certainly not Sarah Wollaston, no. Not if she's standing, no. No way.
Do you think it's time for her to be deselected?
Yes, I do. Without any shadow of a doubt.
Some people say that we should call a second referendum on her election here in Totnes. What do you think about that? Or a by-election, essentially.
By all means, have a by-election, certainly. Yes, get shot of her, I'm afraid. She's betrayed us, been a liar, basically, as far as I'm concerned, and the people that I've spoken to.
You've joined the Conservative Party recently, haven't you? Why is that?
Well, basically, to deselect her. At the end of the day, if there are enough of us, we can get her deselected. She's not doing what we want her to do and what the majority of her constituents want her to do. She wrote to me at one point saying, I'm your representative, I'm not a delegate. So I wrote back and said, you are not representing the majority of your constituents. And her blog, which she directed me to when I wrote one of my letters, the title of the blog is, I will support the outcome of the referendum. I will support the outcome. She doesn't. So I wrote to her again and said, that's the first lie. For a start, the blog is full of speculation which she presents as fact. this will happen, that's happened, this will happen. Well, it's not. We don't know what's going to happen. But of course, it's all doom and gloom, just like Project Fear.
So you've written to her quite a bit in these letters that you've got here now. Were you happy with any of her responses?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. And my final letter to her, which is in reply to a letter where she says, I've noted your comments, but evidently I can see this is a topic we will have to agree to disagree on. And I wrote back and said, thank you for your letter, which came as no surprise to me. What a pity you neglected to seriously address or even acknowledge most of the points that I raised with you. But this seems to be how the Remain campaign do their business. They're not answering the points.
Do you feel that she's listened to you?
No, absolutely not. She's ignored everything. These are the length of the letters, as you can see, full 4-page. She hasn't addressed any of them, hasn't replied to any of them. She just sends out a waffling, woolly, generic response, which I think is what they do anyway.
I've joined the Conservative Party because I feel very strongly that the MP that we have in place at the present time, Sarah Wollaston, is not actually espousing the values and the commitments made in the manifesto. And I want to try and influence that in some way so that we actually get proper representation in Parliament. This is not a wealthy town. People here are dependent on the fishing industry and the hospitality industry. People here do not earn a lot of money. They have the most to lose if this doesn't work, and they have the most to gain from the Brexit opportunities that may present. And they feel that these opportunities are being snatched from them. And I think that's criminal, absolutely criminal.
And do you think Sarah cares about this community or its worries to do with Brexit?
I'm not entirely sure. I've never seen her in the town. We've been here a while now. I don't know anybody who has a good word to say for her. I think she just views Brixham as an irritation. And I think that's wrong. That's very wrong.
Some people I've spoken to said that we should deselect Sarah and she shouldn't be the local MP because she doesn't represent their views. Brixham here voted very much to leave. Her constituency voted to leave. What do you think about calls for her to be deselected or her to be removed as the MP?
I have heard that there's an MEP who obviously will be out of work in the future who would stand against her, and I would certainly vote for that person. Or UKIP. I was a UKIP member, I'd go back to them if necessary.
So if the Conservatives did go down this line, or if Sarah did go down this line of a second EU referendum, you wouldn't vote Conservative again?
Not if she was there, no. No. Much as I like her, she's been helpful in other ways, she's been helpful to other people where she can be. So the answer would be no, I'd go to UKIP.
Sarah told me that she wants a second referendum because she sees Brexit as a amputation. She described it as an amputation, and we're going into surgery blind, essentially, and we need another vote to figure out which deal is the best deal because people don't know what they're voting for originally. What do you think about that?
What annoys me, everyone else knew what they were voting for, the Remainers, but we didn't. Why? Why didn't we know what we were voting for? I certainly did.
Now, what do you think the mood here is in Totnes to do with the local MP?
Totnes constituency, people are angry. In Brixham, I mean, you can cut the anger. People are furious. They voted for leave. It was a very clear mandate, and Sarah Wollaston is not respecting that.
Have you seen a rise of support for your party, for UKIP, since she's come back on her word to the second referendum, and even when she came out for Remain during the referendum?
Definitely, especially in the last few months with UKIP. In July alone, we had 3,500 new members, and there's been a resurgence of the younger members as well. And Lexstrom House, which is the head office of UKIP at Newton Abbot, is taking on more staff to process the new members and renewals.
I then thought it would be really useful to find out what locals thought on the high street about their MP, so I went and spoke to a few of them.
I think it's all wrong because the actual area of this, we did say we wanted to come out, the majority, not everybody, but she's gone against the will of the people.
I don't agree with it. We had a vote, and we voted to leave, and that's it.
Do you think that we should have another vote on her being an MP?
I don't agree with her being an MP. We're short of doctors. We've got loads of MPs. And she was doing a good job in Totnes as a doctor. And she should have stuck with that.
We live in a democracy. That's what should happen.
So you don't think we should have a second referendum then?
I don't think we can. Well, we obviously will have.
Well, no, I don't think. The trouble is that if it was the other way round, and the Remainers wouldn't want a second referendum. They only want a second referendum because it's not gone the way they want it to go. And it's gone on for so long now. I think that's the biggest problem. It should have been, we should have left by now. But obviously, in my opinion, half of these politicians are only in it for one reason, for their own good. If they get voted out as an MP here, what do? They go straight away and become an MEP.
And perhaps Sarah Wollaston will do the same?
Yes, precisely. Yeah, perhaps so.
So Sarah Wollaston is your local MP. Now, she's called for a second EU referendum. What do you think about that?
I think the people had already decided. They'd already made their decision. Why go for a second referendum? They should have done this a couple of years ago, to be honest, if they were determined that they were going to do it at all. The people have spoken. That's their decision. Why go any further? Why did they not just get on with it, to be honest?
Thank you so much for watching this Westmonster report from Brixham. It's in the Totnes constituency where Sarah Wollaston, the Ramona MP, is in charge. Now, if you enjoyed this report and you want to help continue Westmonster going to all the Ramona MP's constituencies, then please click the link in the description to help us out and donate to Westmonster. It would really help us out. It would mean we can go to other MP's constituencies who want a second referendum and talk to locals and find out what's really going on.